joining me on the Coach's Couch today here at Inspired Coach Podcast. We have a really wonderful question from a fabulous coach and listener of the show that I hope is going to be something that is helpful to all of you. Anyone listening, really. I think there's going to be things in this for all of us, including myself, because some of these things are just really wonderful reminders. We're here today to talk about burnout. This is not the first time that we have spoken about this topic on the show. We have had a wonderful guest, Caroline Kell, who spoke to us about burnout within the coaching industry and personal development, helping service and support industries. I really encourage you to look up that episode with Carolyn if this is a particular passion of yours and or something that you know that you need to learn more about. Either for yourself personally or potentially for your clients as well. And so this wonderful question comes from Suen Klevecker. And you can find Suen on Instagram. She is a mindful living coach and, by the way, has a beautiful YouTube channel where she discusses many things related to mindful, slow, authentic living. And so her Instagram handle is Suen Klevecker, which is spelled Xuankleveckka. Suen Klevecker. Suen's question is this: how can we avoid burnout while juggling the demands of coaching, growing your business, and maintaining a personal life? Are there specific routines, boundaries, or self-care practices you've found essential for keeping yourself grounded and energized? Suen, again, thank you for this question. And I want to start out by saying that you've asked this particularly of me personally, and that's exactly how I am going to answer it for you, because I am not an expert in burnout. I can only speak to what I know has worked well in this area of remaining well and energized for me personally, and also what I've known to be helpful and supportive for my clients. I am someone who has experienced burnout in a previous salaried role when I was a social worker many years ago. I've not experienced it within a coaching context, but I certainly have felt in running a business elements of that with things such as stress, overwhelm, feeling frazzled, all the things, but not to the extent where I would say that I was burnt out. So I hope that what I share ahead is helpful. Some of it, I guess, as is actually, often the case here at Inspired Coach Podcast, may to some of you sound very simple. And I never make apology about that, because it's often the simplest, in a way, most vanilla things that we overlook for ourselves as human beings, and then end up in situations where we're not quite sure how we've got there and are thinking that maybe the reasons for that are more complex than what they actually are. When if we had just pieced together small, simple, meaningful steps and practices for ourselves, we might actually genuinely be able to stave off things like burnout. Of course, every person's experience is individual. We cannot necessarily say that. For some people, it's a journey that happens for them, even if they've been trying to avoid it or trying to stave it off in the very best possible way that they can. Again, everyone is individual, but let me dive into a few things that I hope might be helpful. The first thing that I want to share, because I think that this is a myth that does float around about burnout, and that is that you can absolutely burn out from doing something that you love. And that includes coaching and running a coaching business. It is a myth that you can only or really would only experience burnout if you are in a job or doing something significantly in your life that felt very soul-sucking or soul-destroying. That is not the case at all. I think probably the fast track to burnout is more likely if your poor soul is being sucked out, but it does not mean that you cannot burn out from doing something that you truly love, because you can, if you don't pay enough attention to what is taking place for you as you are doing that thing that you love. And that leads me to my starting point, and probably the most significant thing, Sue-Ann, that I want to share with you and with everyone is that when it comes to quote unquote avoiding burnout, keeping it at bay, making sure that we don't get there, to me, the primary way that we can avoid that happening is through self-awareness to begin with. It is through paying very close, loving and compassionate attention to ourselves, particularly if we start to notice changes in things such as our mood, how we feel about what we do, our level of stress, our mindset, tension, stress in our bodies, how we're sleeping or not sleeping. It's paying attention to shifts and changes in those things within ourselves and about ourselves that can see us be able to get on the front foot of tipping into a space of burnout. And then once we have that self-awareness, say that something has changed, that our mood is lower or more anxious, or we're more snappy and irritated, or that our sleep is really disturbed, or we no longer have the same level of joy with what it is that we've been doing, it then becomes a matter of compassionately looking at, well, what do I then do about that? Not ignoring it, not steaming through it, not dismissing our intuition when we start hearing messages such as, you need to slow down. You need to make some changes. You can't keep up this pace. Because what I've seen happen before with people who do end up in burnout, or even worse than burnout, complete breakdown, it all began at a critical junction point where they ignored those signs, ignored those signals, pushed them to the side, and either dismissed them as not even being real and certainly not important and not worthy of attention. I've got to keep going. I've got to keep pushing through. I've got to keep hustling. I've got to keep at this. That's really where prevention of burnout begins, is paying that loving attention to yourself when you are truly talking to yourself in a way that says, please pay attention. We're heading in a direction of burnout. Please, can we do something about this? And I think that That really, really, really is if everyone was to take one thing away from this, that would be it. Because even if I think back to my experience of landing in a burnout stage where I had to take about 6 weeks off work to, begin a recovery process from that, I can look back now and see that that's exactly what I was doing. I was totally, in a way, gaslighting my own self. I was saying, you're fine, just keep going, you're just tired, this is ridiculous behavior, you know that you love this work, come on. Instead of actually stopping and paying attention to the deeper messages that were coming through, including all of the physical, mental and emotional symptoms that I was experiencing at that time, including a lowering of mood, difficulty sleeping, which I'd never had before, changes in my appetite, so many other things that were coming forth, and I ignored them at my own peril, and then later on paid the price by finding myself in a full-blown burnout and, as I said, having to take 6 weeks off work. Now, I was lucky that I had sick leave as an employee at that time. This is, of course, a very different experience when you are a business owner and nobody's giving you sick leave. And if you don't work, you don't earn income. And so that is also something that means that our level of attention that we have to pay to ourselves as business owners here is honestly even greater, because if we don't have other paying work, that level of safety net or some form of safety or support that might be there for us. The next thing that I want to mention that I think is incredibly helpful in avoiding burnout is really having a great understanding of your own energy needs and responses. And this includes things like developing an understanding for yourself of, are you mostly somebody who really thrives energetically in the morning, during the day, or at night? Because that can make a huge difference if you respond to that accordingly to your working day. For example, I am very, very much a morning person. The absolute bulk of my work is done in my business in morning hours. It is most definitely not done in the evening because it is not my maximum energy time. But I know other people for whom that is the exact opposite. And evening time is when they thrive and when they're most creatively and energetically, even administratively, lit up and switched on. So if you don't know that part of yourself and where you do thrive, then, and maybe it's more than one, it might not necessarily be one that's very distinct. For me, it's very distinct. It's mornings, without question. Find that out for yourself through test and play and adventure. And the biggest tip that I can give you with this is that it's not even really a tip. If you really focus on doing some morning-based work, some afternoon-based work, and some later evening-based work, you'll soon find out. You will soon find out whether your brain is really firing and switched on in at least one, maybe two of those times that are joined together that's better than the other. And from there, once you know that about yourself, you can then craft and create your business around ensuring that you maximize when you are working at that peak energy time for yourself. Because when you do that, you will get a lot more done in less time, and you will be less likely to have to push yourself into working at times that really don't energetically align with you very well. And that's one of the ways that you protect your energy, preserve your energy, and work at your optimal best. Mixed in with this is also about you understanding, which can be very, very powerful. Do you get your energy more from time alone or with people? That can play a big factor here. And making sure that if, for example, you are someone that mostly recharges your energy and gains energy from more alone, quiet time, that you ensure that your business has that plentifully. And the opposite is true. That if you are somebody that thrives in the company of others, from an energetic perspective, you can contribute to avoiding burnout and dissatisfaction and overwhelm for yourself by making sure you are being with people and connected with people as meaningfully as you possibly can be, as often as you need to keep topping up your cup, and making sure that you're giving that to others as well. Staying in this zone, also working out what type of physical activity do you need to do to feel ongoingly really great in your mind, spirit, soul, and body. Are you somebody who absolutely loves to run? Are you a gym bunny? Are you a dancer? Are you somebody that just loves hiking? It could be anything. But one of the things that we do need to be careful of as coaches and space holders and online business owners is that this work can involve a lot of sitting. And sitting for long periods of time can be very energy draining. And even if we don't realize it, we can think that it's restful. And yes, it's probably more restful than running a marathon. But then again, some people run marathons and find them, they're so energized by it. You know, everyone is different. But from an energy perspective, finding out what kind of physical movement really tops up your source is important here as well. And if you don't know the answer for yourself around these things, such as physical activity, alone time, with people, and all of the things that I mentioned about morning, day, night, around when you optimally work, see it as an adventure to find out. Play with it. Trial and error with it, although you can't really error with this stuff, but just commit to finding out for yourself, because you'll get to know yourself better. You'll understand yourself better, and that means that you'll have a greater level of self-awareness about your own needs. And when you have that, your ability to be able to do something like avoid burnout really becomes so much greater. Okay, let's now talk about something else that people often don't necessarily love to talk about from a practical perspective. And I understand this, I really get it, but it is something that can help to contribute to making sure you remain on an even keel and avoid something like burnout, is you have to make sure from a practical perspective that things like your coaching agreements are clear and operational, and that you stand by them, so that you do not have instances where you're saying that you provide certain levels of service in your agreements with your clients, and you then find yourself, which can happen for a variety of different reasons, overgiving, working outside of usual hours, or somehow or another seeing yourself as a crisis service where you have to respond to clients immediately or very quickly. These sorts of things can absolutely directly contribute to burnout through feeling overwhelmed, feeling ungrounded, never being fully sure of what's around the corner, just not having foundations either there, or if they are there, that you're not upholding them. So just keep that in mind. You know, our agreements, our paperwork, our terms and conditions, they are there to support our clients, but they're also there to support us as well. And this is one of the areas that they come in to supporting us. Now, Sue-Ann, when you asked this question, one of the things that you asked was how to avoid burnout within the juggling demands of coaching, business, and you mentioned maintaining a personal life. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because ultimately in the end here, everyone, why are we doing this work if it's not to actually, yes, it's to be in service. Of course it is. But for ourselves personally, if this is not about being able to live your life in the way that you want to live it, then what's it all about? You know, truly, what's it all about? And so avoiding burnout within the context of this part of the conversation really comes down to me to making sure that you value, honor, and protect your private life and your needs within that. What I mean by that is not falling into any self-imposed or believing because of other messaging that you're seeing out there, any trap of doing things like saying no to time with friends, saying no to fun social engagements, anything that you love to do that is not your work for the sake of things ongoingly to do with your business. Turning down invitations to things that are life-enhancing and giving because you've convinced yourself that you have to schedule more social media or chase an invoice. That means that there is a bigger issue at play that you need to look at in regards to how it is that you're spending and managing your time and working through things that you need to do to serve your clients and be in your business. Because here's the thing, when you look back, when we all look back, if we get an opportunity to do so, if we're blessed enough to grow to be old and get an opportunity to look back on our life, it's not those things in our business that we're going to remember. It's not those things that are going to be highlights for us and that we're going to feel filled up with fondness and love and pride for. It's going to be the life experiences that we've had. It's going to be the times that we've been spending living and loving and leading, whatever those mean and however they matter to you. That will be the thing that makes us feel as though our time here on earth has been worth it and then some. When I was first working in my coaching business, when I was first starting it and I was still working full time, like so many people, I had no choice but to work after hours and initially some weekend work as well. And for myself, I found that the best way for me to manage that, which might be different for others, is that I had to create and try to stick to, as much as I possibly could, a positive schedule for myself with that. And so I became committed to working one evening a week after work where I saw clients, 2 mornings a week, because as you heard me say before, mornings were more my time. Evenings, however, I made available for clients because I was working mostly with people who worked during the day and they needed those time slots. And I also gave myself, or tried to commit to, half a day in the morning on a Saturday. So I distinctly remember it. For me, it was Tuesday mornings, Wednesday mornings before work, Thursday evenings, and then Saturday mornings. And I tried, and it was a couple of hours on those weekday mornings. It was like 2 hours before I went to work. Because my brain was really firing at that time, I got a lot of things done in those 2 hours. And believe me when I tell you that an accumulation of that time over weeks and months, it adds up to good stuff. You know, I was writing and sending emails and organizing my tax and doing, it could be any number of things that I was doing at that time, and sometimes seeing clients as well. But I always promised myself, particularly on those Saturdays, that if a girlfriend asked me out to brunch on a Saturday morning, I would not say no. That I would do that and go to brunch with her, and I would then maybe do some work on a Saturday afternoon, or I would possibly skip it that week, or maybe find some time on a Sunday evening, or whenever it is that I could find it that weekend, even if it was in a reduced capacity. It's the same as, you know, if I had to travel somewhere to go to a wedding, I was not going to say no to those things because I had made this commitment to myself in my business to work on a Saturday morning. I needed to have, and this is what I encourage everyone to do, some flexibility and some flow and the right to shift and change things for myself when I had an opportunity to be able to do something fun and amazing. I never ever wanted to look back and think I said no to anything because, you know, I was sitting at home doing something with my accounting. And so this is going to be something that's different for everyone. But find pockets of time that work for you, but protect and honor and preserve your private life and needs. And know that they are really, really important, a big part of the puzzle here in avoiding burnout. Because if you start to say no to things like that, or not do them because you think you're going to get left behind, or you just think you don't have the time, then that is going to send you hurtling towards the potential of burnout. And again, it really does, of course, then beg the question, why are you doing this? If it's not to be able to live the fullest, most wonderful life that you can, what's it all about? Okay? Yeah. The final thing that I want to mention here that I feel, and these things, again, I say they're probably going to come across to everyone as sounding simplistic, and I get that. But important to mention anyway, because I think it would feel quite odd, if I'm being honest, if I didn't mention them, is that core foundational things when it comes to your health and wellness as a human being, let alone as a space holder doing incredible work in the world, really do matter here. And so to me, those baseline things are paying attention to the quality of and quantity of your sleep. not sitting too much at a desk, and making sure that you find meaningful movement and ways to move your body. Eating for nourishment, pleasure, and brain fuel, so you can fully turn up with your clients in the most amazing, deep, rich ways. Time in nature. You are nature. I am nature. We are nature. Time with it, in it, is so important, so replenishing. The research on this is everywhere. I am not talking out of turn when I say this, not in any way. It's real. It is life enhancing. It is energy giving. It is spiritually awakening and supportive. Get outside. Get some plants in your office. All the things connected to that. And finally, with this, foundationally, connection. Connection with other people. Making sure you are not isolated, that you are not alone, that you have people in your life that you can reach out to, talk through things with, request support and help if needed. Those things are incredibly important. And not just when we might feel that we're on the precipice of falling over or something bad happening or being in, some kind of state where we need an exceptional level of support and help. It's also about having people in your life that you genuinely feel that you can celebrate with, even have a brag to, and say, this is going really well, or this is amazing, or I had this experience as a coach and this was wonderful. This is why our community at Beautiful You is so important. In our alumni Facebook group, which is so vibrant and incredible, I love it so much. We have a monthly celebration thread in there. And honestly, it is just so life-giving, so energy-giving to hear people say everything from, I set this boundary this week or this month, or I got a new client, or I've enrolled 2 people in my new program, or, this happened on my social media accounts and it was amazing, or I've been booked for my first speaking engagement. Having cheerleaders around you is so important. And finding out who those are for you, and you being that for others as well, can be so life enhancing and professional and business enhancing and giving too. It's these kinds of foundational things that, from my perspective, help us to genuinely shore ourselves up with the potential that we can avoid burnout. At the very least, it will mean that our awareness that we may be heading in that direction becomes greater. And it's that self-awareness that then allows us to be able to make positive decisions where we can life and business and course correct, so we do not end up in a position where we have to stop this life-giving work that we do because of something like burnout. Suen, thank you so much for asking this wonderful question. I hope that it has been helpful for you. Clearly, these things are coming very much from a personal perspective of mine, but I hope for you and for everyone listening today that you find something in here that's supportive for you in your coaching journey.